So, you're interested in learning more than one language at a time. At a time? At a time. I applaud your ambition, but is it actually worth it? For the last year and a half, I've been learning both Portuguese and Swahili, and let me tell you a little bit about my experience. Hi, I'm Jackson from Let's Learn Languages. Today, we'll be discussing the topic if you should actually learn multiple languages at once. And like most good questions, the answer is, it depends. Is this light annoying? If you are able to learn two languages at the same time, it could prove to be very effective. You could learn two languages at the speed that it takes to learn one, if applied correctly. Okay, maybe not that much, but nonetheless, your efficiency would be far greater than learning one language to perfection and then another language to perfection. However, if you don't do it the right way, then you could very easily get confused, demotivated, and your progress could actually slow more than if you learn one language and then another. So that begs the question, when should I learn two languages and when should I not? In general, I would not learn two languages at once unless you meet these three criteria. Number one, you are self-sufficient in language one. So in your first language, you are able to speak and converse with a native more or less good enough. And by good enough, I mean you don't need to use Google Translate for most things, and you should be able to have a decent flow of conversation. Like, it shouldn't take forever to get your ideas out or to understand them, and they shouldn't have to repeat themselves super often, and you the same. And the reason for this is I wouldn't want to learn two languages from scratch at the same time, because I don't know, I just don't think it's worth it. At that point, why not just master the basics of one language and then go on to master the basics of another? And when I say basics, I mean like word order or verb conjugation, those sorts of things. You don't need to be an expert, but mastering just the basics so that you can start having conversations with people, that is what I would want to get down first before going on to any other language. The second thing is make sure the languages are not closely related. So I'm learning Swahili along with Portuguese, very unrelated, which makes it very easy because I wouldn't get confused. If I were to learn Spanish, it would be very easy to get confused and I would not have a good time. Both my progress in Portuguese would slow dramatically, and I would learn Spanish, but I would just get the two confused. It would be a bad time for me. I think that only the close languages you would need to avoid, like Zulu and Kosha, or Portuguese and Spanish, or Urdu and Hindi, those kind of languages. But I would be wary even going along the same branch, like learning Italian and Portuguese, or Italian and Spanish, or French and Spanish, or French and Portuguese, or French and Italian, like all those Latin-based languages, or not Latin-based, all those romance languages. Even those, I would be cautious of learning those together. Lastly, you need to have the time and the motivation to learn languages at the same time, because it's very time consuming, especially at the start. So make sure you're up for the challenge. And if you don't meet those three requirements, I wouldn't recommend it. And in terms of my experience with it, mostly it's been pretty good, but I do sometimes, whenever I don't know a word in Swahili, I look for the Portuguese version of it. And sometimes when I'm speaking Portuguese, I randomly want to say some stuff in Swahili. It's super weird, but I think it's just because I'm not comfortable. Well, I shouldn't say comfortable, because I'm not fluent in both languages, that it makes it difficult, because I'm like, oh, I need to remember a word in another language for the word that I want to say, instead of I'm in Portuguese mode or I'm in Swahili mode. And these mix-ups only really happen when I speak it, and when it comes to listening or writing or reading, I have no issue. But when I speak it, I want to recall a word from a different language. Lastly, I do not recommend studying both languages in the same day. Sometimes I would go from speaking Portuguese and then I'd go to speak Swahili, and it was so difficult. Or at least maybe not day by day, but hour by hour. Give yourself a little break. Remember to stop thinking in one language and try to start thinking in another language. That might work best. So you can learn two languages at once, but I highly recommend waiting until you are very comfortable in one language. Maybe not comfortable, conversational in one language before going on to another one. Make sure they are not closely related and make sure you have the time to do it. But I'm just one guy. If you guys have learned more than one language at once, let me know how that experience went. I'm sure other people would love to know. That's it from me. Have a great day. Ciao.